Gwilym, how are you, mate?
I'm really well. How are you?
I can see the sun streaming through on the side of your face.
It's not really sun. It is light, but it's coming through a lot of clouds. So it's a bit blinding. And my left eye's, I think the pupils are different sizes. Put it that way.
I've had to draw the curtains because the sun otherwise would mean that I would just look like a kind of like a shadow on the screen.
And you're stuck at home. We were saying pre-podcast or at home.
I'm at home. It is train strike week, of course. So it's not actually possible to get into London this week. Conveniently arranged for half term, I imagine. So that causes maximum disruption.
We've had this conversation. We totally support the workers here.
We do indeed, absolutely. Yeah. We totally support the workers. We also accept that there are all kinds of problems with meeting the demands that might be being made of employers and government and all of those kinds of things. We're sympathetic to all sides, but it's a bit of a pain to be living through.
Are you enjoying all of the long bank holidays that we have every week?
I've lost count of them. I seem to be permanently on a bank holiday, permanently barbecuing.
That's all. We've talked about your barbecuing before. You don't barbecue normal things. You barbecue soup and curries and.
I don't barbecue soup. I do barbecue a curry. Yeah. I do a very slow cooked lamb curry on the barbecue, which is quite nice. I'll have to have you around sometime. No, actually, I won't. I don't like it that much.
Yeah, I was going to say it's about time you invite me, and then you retract it instantly. That hurts.
Should we get the guests on?
Yeah.
Would that be a good idea?
Lee Davis and Gwilym Roberts are the Two IPs in a pod, and you are listening to a podcast on intellectual property, brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Patent Attorneys.
So, 3 guests today. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Let's start with Jenni. Jenni, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Jenni. I run an agency in London. I do design and brand marketing. I'm currently working on the SIMPLEX project with my father, and I am doing the marketing and branding and packaging concepts, future vision, blah, 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 for him.
Before we introduce your dad, what's it like working with him?
Interesting. I think we're quite similar, so sometimes that doesn't work.
Yeah,
so, a lot of the times it does. It's good. Overall, it's good. So.
I often feel like I'm working with my dad when I do this with Lee, funnily enough.
You got him before me. Mike, save me. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mike Arksey. I have a company based in Wolverhampton. We manufacture just about anything out of MDF.
Anything out of MDF?
Yeah, MDF, which is medium density fibre cord, which is a timber composite material. It comes in sheet wool, which we cut and then make all sorts of things with it, furniture, decorative panelling, all sorts of things. Started that in 92 when I designed and built my first machine, because I wanted to have a machine that was highly competitive, very fast, efficient. So it was a dedicated machine, which we've been using that principle now for 31 years.
Cool. And I know we're going to be talking a wee bit about kitchens and the like, so I probably ought to declare really early on. Gwilym always gets excited when I say this. Whilst I now work and live in the world of intellectual property, I'm a plumber by trade and did do a fair bit of kitchen fitting. So, and remember very well the advent of MDF becoming a kind of core material in the 90s. So I'm sure we can have a really interesting conversation about that. Terry, who are you, sir?
Yeah, so I've been in the furniture industry since 1981. Having graduated in product design. I did 8 years in office furniture, but most of it has been in the kitchen industry. And more recently, I've got involved in a startup company, which is all about upcycling cellulose waste material to make office furniture fit-out solutions. And that sort of really opened my eyes into the world of sustainability, and hence Mike's brought me on board to help with this project.
Cool. So, shall we start off by you helping us to understand a wee bit about the invention, the discovery, the product that you've been nominated for the Earthshot Award for? Who wants to lead on that?
Well, I should do that because I can explain what the motivation was behind it in the first place. And you mentioned, in a previous life, you were a plumber. And we interviewed a lot of plumbers, electricians, carpenters, all sorts of different people who handle kitchen furniture in terms of transportation, etc. And we discovered there were lots of problems with the fitted kitchen of today. It causes many, many problems. So I thought, well, okay, I'll make 10 kitchens and supply them and install them, which I don't normally do. I don't do the installation side, just to see if you guys were telling us, the truth. Is what was the situation. And yes, the feedback was exactly as been told by all the various trades people. And then I thought, well, then this doesn't make any sense at all. So when I researched it, I discovered that we're making fitted kitchens the same way since 1926. The first fitted kitchen was built in Frankfurt, in Germany, in 1926. And it was basically a series of boxes screwed together to take advantage as much as possible of the space available, because the Frankfurt Authority were trying to build council properties using the best possible way of using space. And that's what they came up with. And since then, we've been doing exactly the same thing for 100 years, either flat pack or rigid versions. Both of them don't make sense. So what I did, I set about thinking, well, there must be another way, a better way. 8 years ago, I thought, okay, I'll create a space frame. I didn't know it was a space frame at the time, but since discovered that's what it is. But space frames are used for building buildings, constructing buildings outside, not internally. So that's the first change in direction, if you like. So this is what I've been doing ever since in the last 8 years. And I've now got a design engineer, Mark Newland, down in Southampton, who is creating new ways of connecting the space frame together. He's devised all sorts of different ways. We've patented the system and hoping to take it eventually globally.
Can you explain a little bit about the problems that existed in the past? So what were the sorts of problems that you were trying to overcome with the invention?
Right, well, the first thing was the actual weight of a box, the cumbersome nature of a box or a cabinet, the fact they're heavy, they're awkward, and you've got to get them from the factory to the site without damaging them.
Yeah, recognise that.
Involvement of that is enormous. Then you have you guys, the plumbers, who are partly to blame for some of the problems because
heavy-handed, brutal.
Yeah. And what's happened is the plumber would have his program, and he might come on Monday, or maybe he's got another job. He might come on Wednesday. So the whole process is disjointed. Then the sparky comes in, he does his bit, then he goes off, and he hasn't got the bits he wants, the component parts. And he disappears for 2 or 3 days, and then the chippy comes in and he puts something in the way. And then the plumber or the electrician then starts chiseling out the wall, so it creates mess. So what I realized, the biggest thing we discovered as far as the kitchen installation was the worktop. The templating is the biggest nightmare of all, because you can't start manufacturing the worktop until the actual carcass is installed, because you don't know the shape, the measurement dimensions.
Yeah.
You've got granite or whatever, those very highly expensive materials, you have got a problem in terms of the final cut. And it's got to be absolutely spot on, otherwise it won't fit. And what happens, you template, you go there, situation's fine, you go back, great. And then you go back again and just to check, and the plumber, usually the plumber, has put something else in the way. There was something no one knew about, and it's suddenly that appears. You've got to refashion the template again. Sometimes it takes up to 3 efforts before you go. And if the site is 50 miles away from the factory, that's a lot of unnecessary traveling and a lot of carbon footprint that we didn't need. So what's happened, we've tried to look at all the different situations and solve them. So what we've done is created a space frame which ignores the floor and it ignores the frame, the wall. And the reason for that was because most walls aren't perpendicular or level or flat, and the same with floors, they're out. And even on a new build, you still get quite big distortions in the dimensions of a room, of a space. So how I look at this kitchen is it's just one giant piece of furniture that you kind of just drop down like a spaceship coming down. You just dump it in the space and just adjust the feet as it's landing, and they connect to the wall. So, and the other thing is, the big thing for you plumber guys is you can attach all the push fit plumbing to the back of the frame without touching the wall. You have a service void, and for the electrician, you've got space for a consumer unit. So you can have the consumer unit as well behind what it was the splashback, but now has become the center module. The 3 modules: lower module, center module, upper module. We don't have base units, splashbacks, and wall cabinets.
So this is really challenging my understanding of what a kitchen design looks like, but that's great. I'll ask another question, then I might let Gwilym get involved a wee bit from the kind of tech side. So just to help me understand what a space frame is, in my mind, what I'm seeing is something a bit like you might throw up for a marquee or for perhaps an exhibition stand or something like that. It kind of, you throw it up, it fills the space, you make your adjustments, and it's kind of like a frame sitting in situ that you then hang everything around. Is that right?
It's right. It's like the skeleton, the body skeleton, and then you attach all the flesh and the organs and all the rest of it. And it's the same with this concept. That's what you're doing. You're just attaching the frontals, and then, because all this unit is a housing and storage unit. That's it. It's inert. It's not doing anything. The only moving parts are the doors and these drawers.
Cool.
Am I coming in? So I'm really interested. So obviously this podcast has got the clues in the name. It's got IP in there. You mentioned that you were patented. Can you talk us through that process? What exactly have you got patented? And I mean, how did you approach that?
Well, luckily we got a great guy up in Manchester who has been handling us from the start, and he's very connected with engineering. He actually did quantum mechanics in a previous life, and you can understand why his mind works the way it works. Very clever guy, and I put forward all the drawings which are in SolidWorks, because we had to buy SolidWorks to do the process to actually achieve the drawings that you need to do to submit to the authorities to get the patent. I think it's Munich based. And during that process, we obviously had to learn how to use it and develop it, and we had to take on 3D printing as well, so that we could actually do the R&D work as well. But as far as the patenting concerned, he took us through that process step by step. Very helpful.
What was his name? We always like to give a shout out to the advisors. Who was it? Sorry.
It was Johannes Vinjok from Muben Ellis.
Muben. Okay, great. Oh, yeah.
Great guy. Really great guy.
Well known to CIPA. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But he knew exactly the bits that we need to describe and how to describe them. He did all the descriptors, and quite frankly, I don't know how you guys stay sane, because
they don't.
But the terminology is bonkers. I mean, that's ridiculous, and it's very repetitive. And you think the pages of stuff just to explain what a screw looks like. And by the way, we've virtually got rid of screws for this as well. It's very much Lego-like. So, and if I can also say, the plumber, again, you're not out of work, because the installation is done by one plumber and one electrician. That's the installation team. So that's changed as well.
I've just found the patent. Sorry, Leo.
I was going to say, Gwilym at the moment is searching for your patent so that you can ask all sorts of technical questions. So get ready for this.
No, I'm not going to. Don't worry. But I just dug it out. I'm always fascinated by this bit of it. Okay, no. So the patent's all about the modularity, the way that things fit together, and so on. So yeah, it's currently pending at the European Patent Office. There we go.
Yes, I mean it's really the main parts of it are the connectivity of the whole system, the way the thing clicks together, and it literally clicks together.
I can't wait to see it or even try it. My plumbing days are obviously a long way in the past. But I've got a lot of children and they always want kitchens fitted, so maybe I'll get a chance to do it at some point in the future.
Well, another thing is that you can do most of your kitchen, in terms of the plumbing, you can do most of the work off-site. You can turn up with all the parts just to click them together. I mean, it is very different.
So, Jenni, where did you come into all of this? What's your role? What do you do? Gwilym's still reading the pattern, so we'll let him do his reading.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that one of the main things about the kitchen concept, obviously, Terry's going to say his bit about the sustainable concept that comes out of this, actually. When we start investigating, we started talking to some companies who were quite interested in it. And then as it's progressed, it got more and more into the sustainable field, thinking about the reduction of waste, the reduction of, timber, etc., used in the concept. And then I've sort of come along because I've got a lot of experience in branding and marketing, working for brands in actually the apparel industry, but there's a lot of similarities here. And just really for us, it's like getting that message across. And one of the things that you've just said actually is like, oh, I've got to get my head around this. And it's like, if we are coming up with something quite new and quite innovative, sustainable, all of these things, circular, repurposable, then we need to make sure we get that message out, because the first thing that we will come across is people will be going, what is this? How does this work? How do we be a brand? How do we get that message out there? How can we connect to people? So I think once the prototype's up and running, I will step in to work on the marketing and also the packaging element as well, which we want it to be reusable, purposed for the smaller, because obviously our kitchens are going to arrive smaller. They're taking up less volume. Can we get it in the back of a car? How do we get rid of cardboard packaging? How can we do reusable packaging? So the whole thing is being thought all the way through, right to the point the customer gets it in their home and then gets it fitted, etc., etc. So it is a journey. So I'm kind of here. My reason for being here is to help the consumer understand what that journey is and what the brand is and what the product is. So,
and it's part of that challenge, overcoming 100 years of history and doing things the same way.
Absolutely. I mean, as Mike has already said, he's researched into this. We've been doing it for the same thing. It doesn't make sense. Putting a box on a wall that isn't straight, onto a floor that isn't straight. It's like, okay, let's create a headache. More timber used, more product being used, more materials being used, complicated, overcomplicated. So yeah, I think we're trying to get the message of this will be so crucial to make the consumer, to help the consumer understand how this works and what and the benefits, not only to them, but also to the planet. So, this is what we want to get across.
And I mean, maybe this is a way of teasing Terry into the conversation. One of the great, I think, disadvantages for me in where we've gone in the last, say, 30 or 40 years is the excessive use of things like chipboard and other composites in kitchen unit manufacture. You're sticking these things in places that are damp, where you get leaks, where it's quite easy for laminates to kind of delaminate and chipboard to blow apart and stuff like that. People after 5 years look at their kitchens and think, doors a bit wobbly, starting to see bubbles in surfaces and things like that, and they throw them away. They're disposable. And that for me is a big issue. So Terry, is that where you come in on the sustainability angle?
Yeah, yes, sort of. I'll just sort of like recap slightly. There was an article in the Kitchen, Bedroom, Bathroom Review back in May 2020 during lockdown, in effect. There's a lot of people, I was twiddling my thumbs, I read the article, and it was all about greenwashing, basically. And it was based around a few small bespoke manufacturers doing their sustainability thing. And really, for the industry to make a sea change, or paradigm shift, as I call it, the industry really needed to sort of look outside its own traditional supply chain for answers and solutions. So I did a reply to that article, which actually got printed. And as it happens, Mike read it. And a couple of years later, he was searching for me. And then only to find that we actually live in the same village. which was just, I guess, fate, I don't know. But so for the last 3 months, I've been working on this project to find the most sustainable materials we can use. Okay, as Mike already suggested, because we've got the space frame, we're using 40, 50% less material. So that's really a great big tick to start with. Okay, and the next thing is then to find the most environmentally friendly, sustainable materials that have got no sort of horrible toxins, such as added formaldehyde, urea, thermosetting resins, that comes from a renewable source, sustainable source, that sort of thing. So I've been gathering information, hunting down materials, and then we've put together a database and an index that scores each material against each other. So we can see and compare material one against the other based around its material health and circularity. So that's a starting point. There are other topics that we want to add to that at a later date, but at the moment, that's the two key prime areas we're looking at to hunt down the most sustainable products, materials we can use in this product.
I know everything about this product. I've really enjoyed reading the patent history on it. Johannes has been the at Newlands doing an awesome job, I can see. Fantastic. It's on its way through the European patent. This is all for the patent attorneys. Surprising number of patent attorneys want to know what's going on. So it's making its way through the European patent system at the moment. The last exam report, it's all about the bulbous member anyway. So I think you're talking about how, houses sag and they're all different angles and things. And so it's the way that you mount it to the wall is where the patents sit. It's clearly distinguished over what the prior art's saying. So that looks like a pretty healthy thing. I also see it's gone, you have an international patent application, which then went to Europe and Japan. So a good kind of commercial strat. Presumably Japan's an important market for you guys for all the reasons you've been explaining. Okay, that makes loads of sense. It's always good to, to remind us there's an IP podcast and just have a quick look at that. In terms of kind of third parties, I'm always interested. Are you finding that the IP is of relevance in any discussions, or is it more that you want to just be protected when you get to market?
I think it's very important that the centre sort of focus of the whole concept is all about the connectivity, how the thing fits together. It's a bit like if you think of Lego and you think of the way that clicks together. That would have been their first point of call to protect that principle, which is actually achieved not necessarily by the material, but by the engineering skill of the people who design the machines. I'm a person who believes very much in machine first, product later, and you've got to be able to really drill down on what's actually happening to the material. How do you achieve that the quickest, most efficient way? And I think, to me, that's the secret between any successful product, is how you make it successfully, efficiently. So in terms of the actual patenting aspect, it has to hinge very much on the connectivity. And I've seen drawings from all around the world that have been produced over the last 100 years. And some are quite ingenious, especially Japanese, very clever. And that dates back to early Japanese carpentry, where they were very smart at devising ways of connecting things together by making the timber, shaping the timber by hand. And you probably relate to origami as well, the way they fold paper. And it's kind of in their psyche, the Japanese. And I'm fascinated by the way the Japanese think. And when you start looking at the way their logic works, it's quite interesting. I've tried to kind of look into that and adapt that to what my thinking. And thinking, it's about the geometry. The whole point of this is really basic geometry, the whole invention. It's about using gravity and all sorts of different aspects, and triangulation are the two big features of the whole concept. And it's just using those basic laws of nature and adopting them. But you need a very good patent lawyer to be on side, because you can easily go off on a tangent, do the wrong thing. I've needed Johannes on board all the time. We speak probably once a week, And it's really is important. It's a very important part of the journey. And we know we're on a journey, and we know that it's a journey of discovery. We're looking for different materials. The actual space frame will be made out of biopolymer materials, so it will come from nature. At the moment, you're at the mercy of the manufacturers of the granules, make polymer granules. And we have discussions every week around the world on Teams, on Zoom, with manufacturers who are developing these polymers. It's an amazing journey, very frustrating because you want it to happen next week. It's not going to happen next week, but at least we have, there's a whole team of us around the world who are working together on the same project.
And I mean, in terms of your kind of end goal, I think that there are usually two dreams that inventors seem to have. One is that they will create a kind of a business that they own and run and is world beating in its own entity, like the kind of the Dyson model, if you like. And the other one is that you'll find someone who will kind of become a partner with you and whom you can license your IP to, so that they then do a lot of the kind of the big sales work. You get your income through royalties and being involved in the continuing design process. Which of those, either of those, your dream?
Yes, well, I mean, obviously there are elements in there that what you just mentioned, where my vision is. I think the most important part of the vision was to actually achieve something in your lifetime which is life-changing and beneficial to mankind. I think that's my vision. Usually, if it's a great idea, the money comes as a kind of side thing, it's a side issue. I just happen to not be that interested in money to that degree. I mean, I drive a clapped-out Jazz, so, I don't drive a Ferrari. I don't need that. The greatest thrill is working with people like Terry here, who works like a horse. He seems to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he's on, searching for materials. And it's the team I have is brilliant. They're all working so hard. Jenni comes from a dedicated background in terms of sustainability. She was, like she said, her fellow pupils at Royal College wondered what on earth she was doing, using recycled yarns that she discovered in America and brought over. I mean, she was only 21 years old and she was doing stuff that no one else was doing. And then I have a granddaughter who's likewise. She's a Royal College, and she's into sustainability just the same way from the science point of view. So there's 3 generations of this, so who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, it's up to my daughter and my granddaughter to take it forward, basically, on that basis. So that's my vision. It's more about let's get this done. And I mean, if there's money at the end of it, great. But if there isn't, so what? It's more about achieving an aim and getting there.
Well, we know that Jenni rides a bike, so she doesn't need a Ferrari.
I am my own Ferrari on my bike. In my
Jenni,
world.
can I ask you a wee bit about? I'll probably use the wrong words here, so bear with me. So, marketing, communications, Earthshot generally. Can we kind of focus a wee bit around the future in terms of your role and how you see the challenges going forward promoting this? So, first question: how are you going to build the brand and the like? Second question: the importance of Earthshot. Why now at this stage in the kind of product's life? What does Earthshot mean at this moment in time?
Well, I think it's, as my father has said, it's quite sort of disruptive, the concept, and it's led to this amazing sustainable concept, almost by mistake in theory. But, if you think about how many kitchens are made, every year, and then what the future also, if you can repurpose this product, which is what we want it to be, it's something that is even better than circularity and, will be able to be repurposed, reused. So I think what we're trying to do is, have this brand, as we want it to be a warm brand. We're not about making, as my dad said, it's not about massive profits for a few shareholders. We want to sort of give back. We want it to be a friendly brand, a connected brand. It's more than just creating mass product that has to then go into landfill. we want to create less waste. And as as I was saying, we want it to be thought through the whole journey. So it's more about, even the packaging, even the way people can construct it, get it fitted, the templating, it's easy process. Waste, is kept to an absolute minimal, and the material it uses is kept to an absolute minimal. And we want it to be, if we can get it manufactured, in local regions, why not use all their local, materials to get, to again eliminate transportation, so I think that's kind of our overall purpose is to create this brand to be very consumer and planet friendly. So yeah, that's our kind of overall. Hopefully I answered that.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of winding down now, coming towards the end of the podcast. There's always a sort of little follow-up question thing at the end, so prepare yourselves for a bit of a random question coming up. Even Gwilym doesn't know what the random question is, so and he always looks forward to it. But are you sat there thinking, oh, they didn't ask us that, or we would have really liked to have talked about X, Y, or Z? Is there anything else you want to get across on the podcast? You don't have to, of course.
We on the sustainability front, I think we were keen to adopt the 5 principles of sustainability: reuse, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, and recycle. So the space frame actually encompasses all of that, because basically the frame's for life. Okay, yeah. You can buy your first kitchen, which is the frame, and if you can add to it very easily. Okay, and ultimately the only thing you may need to change, because the styles will change, is the frontals. Okay, but the actual frame itself, the core body of the kitchen, will be with you for life, and you could in fact dismantle it, take it with you to another property.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that Terry brought that up, because I think it's very important. A space frame is for life. That's a very big message. The other thing, 2 things or 3 things: dust-free installation. Installation takes 2 days for an average kitchen. That's start to finish.
Can I add something in that's really important as well? That is the cost, because a lot of people or potential consumers will also, especially at the moment, the cost of living crisis, etc., they will make decisions based on cost. Most people do, and if you're trying to push, a sustainable concept out there, a lot of people will be like, well, I can't afford it. And what we're also trying to do here is make this affordable to people. So because we are using less product material, there's a massive saving on this. And, we want to make this accessible product, because then we are making sustainability accessible. And it's really key that we do that. And we can compete with, the big yellow and blue brand, but actually make it durable and strong. And as Terry said, frame for life kind of concept. So
and that can be achieved. The actual cost can be achieved by the speed of manufacture. Because another part of my vision is to be able to make this kitchen in 2 hours as well. That was the other thing that is the objective. So therefore, the time taken, it'd be made 90% of the kitchen would be made robotically as well. So that's going to be a massive challenge. So coupled with the fact that we're going to be using at least 40% less timber, all those things, when they're together, when it's to scale, that's when this concept will really have an effect.
Transportation costs go down as well because of that, which also is the transportation carbon footprint. So, it makes complete sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
The other thing I'd just like to add is the other thing we're trying to achieve is to make sure we're not just using sustainable materials, but ultimately they can be biodegradable. Because if at some point, end of life, the kitchen materials, don't get recycled or go back into a circular economy for whatever reason, they should hope, in theory, they should do. But if it did fall outside that loop, then if it did go to landfill or whatever, it would biodegrade naturally.
Oh, well, thank you all for giving up your time and coming on the podcast. It's been fascinating talking about how you've got to where you are, where you go next, and obviously, I have a past professional interest in this, so I'll keep an eye out for the product, see how it develops, and hopefully at some point in the future, fit it in a kitchen.
I've got a feeling you're going to go back to plumbing because you're going to be a fitter. Yeah.
I'm too old, Mike. I'm too old.
He's about it enough.
My knees and my hips wouldn't allow it these days, I'm afraid.
Okay, another feeling. Yeah.
So we always end on a bit of a random question. This isn't too much of a random question. I go to Gwilym first, and then you get the chance to answer it. So you get a little bit more thinking time than Gwilym gets. Gwilym, we've been talking kitchens. Nice, easy question, mate. What is your favourite kitchen appliance or other thing that you might have in your kitchen that I don't know about?
We've got a really good thing for avocados. There you go. It slices it in half, and then it removes the stone, and then it makes it into little slices. It's a thing of utter beauty. More importantly, it's quite pretty. It's green with a bit of black on it, and it looks good. And that takes all of the craft out of avocado preparation. And the risk, the danger. You get that wrong.
Jenny, you must have a favourite kitchen appliance, surely.
Do you know what? I think I'm going to be. I've got a new kettle that's got a tea diffuser thing in it, and it lights up, and I love it.
Hang on, what a tea diffuser? How does that work?
Yeah, it's like a kettle with a tea diffuser inside it, so you can keep it warm, so you don't have to keep reboiling it. It's great, and it goes blue when it turns on.
Oh, they're so nice, aren't they? You kind of want to make your tea in the dark, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yeah, sorry, quite sad.
My favourite appliance, if you like, in the kitchen is my hands. It's strange.
Oh.
During lockdown, okay, you got so bored, my wife and I, what can we do? Well, we normally just pile everything into the dishwasher and let's wash up instead. So that's become a thing. We will wash up now, then you rarely use the dishwasher.
I had an image there of you using karate chops to cut your bananas. So you took me in a better direction.
Mike, how about you? You're a man who obviously knows your way around a kitchen. You've spent the best part of your life redesigning them in one way or another. So,
yeah, unfortunately, coming from an innovative, entrepreneurial sort of standpoint, with everything I see and touch, I want to change every appliance in the kitchen because I don't think any of them have been designed very well.
Nothing is your answer.
Well, yeah, apart from a humble kitchen knife, which is my favourite knife. Has everybody got? I'm sure they have a favourite kitchen knife. If you lost it, it'd be like losing an arm. So I'd say the humble favourite kitchen knife that sits in the drawer that you just hope is going to be there next time you go in to find it.
Yeah, reasonable. You're gonna know mine, Gwilym, aren't you?
Lee, you never get away with it. You know that. Go.
So I'm torn between two. The first is something I've put into the kitchen against my better judgment, but now I'm addicted to, and that's the television. Yeah. So I now always have it on in the background. I love cooking. I absolutely love spending time in the kitchen, and the television is something that I kind of always have on in the background now. And the second is my cheap throwaway £5 knife sharpener that I need to buy about every 3 years because it blunts itself in that time. Can't remember who makes it. It's absolutely brilliant.
You need a knife sharpener.
I have. Now, this is how sad I am. I have, of course, got a grinder down my workshop, and I have been known to take the knife sharpener apart and try and sharpen these tiny little blades on my grinder. So it doesn't work. Thank you all for sharing your time with us. It's been absolutely brilliant, and good luck with developing this. See where it goes, and obviously, good luck with the Earthshot nomination. And Gwilym, I will see you on the next podcast, mate.
Looking forward to it as ever.
Bye, Gwilym. Bye, Jenny.
All right, nothing wrong.